mentally and psychologically, we're battling with ourselves. And it took me a long time to find the courage because I was scared. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of failing. I was scared of embarrassing myself. I was scared of not being good enough. So where I found the courage was a pivotal moment in my life. And that was, believe it or not, having a tumour, having a life-threatening disease, and all my life turned upside down.
Today's guest is my amazing, fabulous friend, Parveen Ashraf, aka The Spice Queen. Having over 30 years experience in the world of Indian cuisine and having a wealth of knowledge and experience, believes that with the right spice and the right method, anyone can cook her authentic step-by-step recipes. This was evident when Parveen showed the nation how to cook on her TV series. Parveen is also an author and launched her first cookbook, Parveen The Spice Queen, Step-by-Step Authentic Indian Cookery, several years ago, and I have a copy, and I'm proud to say I have a signed copy. Talk more about that later. Parveen is a keen advocate of Indian home cooking and an accomplished cookery teacher. Having taught globally, her clients include celebrities and even royalty. Parveen is more than happy to share an insight into her life as a wife, mother, and chef, demystifying Indian cooking and helping you spice up your life. Welcome, Parveen.
What a great introduction. I'm trying to think which royalty. Yes, I did. I cooked for an African prince a while ago. My husband used to work in Ghana and I cooked for an African prince. He just wanted a lamb biryani and loved it. Thank goodness.
That's excellent. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Me too. And when you introduced me and you said friend, because we are friends, we've become friends, and you messaged me, I remember every week after every episode, your lovely messages on Instagram. And every week I looked forward to that messages, and your name kept coming up. And I thought, then you added me on Facebook, and now we are friends, and now here we are.
Yes, I can say I've had the pleasure of coming over to yours for a dinner party, and not only that, you've actually come to my house and still cooked for me, so I'm pleased about that.
Do you know what it is, Anita? I think I have that very rare disease called taking over Titus. And even when I go to other people's houses, I just can't help myself. And somebody said to me, oh, do you really cook in real life? I said, no, I really cook in real life. And even for the ITV series, it was a question that was asked several times. Do I cook in real life? Or do you know? I said, no, I demonstrate cooking, but I cook when I'm happy. I cook when I'm sad. I cook for friends. I cook when people come to my house. And as you know, I cook when I go to your house as well.
Yes. I'm pleased. I'm not going to argue with that. Carry on. Here we are on Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. Bearing that in mind, what is one of the most courageous things you have done?
Gosh, now you're asking. And I knew this question was going to come up when I was trying to think about it, Anita. And I think for me, the most courageous thing I did was accepting who I am. Accepting that I am Muslim. Yes. Yes, I'm Pakistani. Yes, I'm from Bradford. Yes, I'm not a trained chef. For me to accept all those things, say, yeah, I am that person, because I spent a long time not wanting to be that person, not wanting to celebrate my colour, my culture, my heritage, my womanhood, me being a wife and mum, because it sounds a bit bland. Oh, what do you do? I cook for a living. Oh, don't all Asian women cook? You know, you get that stereotype. Yes, they may cook, but they don't teach it and they don't run it as a business. So I think for me, the most courageous thing I've done, and not until you just asked it, that I realised, was accepting who I am.
So where did you find the courage, like you've just explained, that you found it really difficult?
I did, Anita, and I would just, I think what you're doing is amazing. People, to be courageous, there's so many connotations of the word courageous. We're not going out battling the elements, but we are, in a way, sort of metaphorically and sort of mentally and psychologically, we're battling with ourselves. And I found the courage, and it took me a long time to find the courage, because I was scared. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of failing. I was scared of embarrassing myself. I was scared of not being good enough. So where I found the courage, when people around me told me I can do this. And then, of course, my mother was the one that said, you've got this. And her words were so powerful. And she gave me the courage to be myself, because more than anybody, she knew me really well. So finding the courage is not easy. So if you're listening to this and you want to follow your dreams and you want to do something, don't be scared. Find the courage, find your network, find your power, be yourself, and follow your dreams.
Beautiful. Beautifully put. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh my God, that's quite deep, Anita.
I'm loving this conversation already. Absolutely. And yeah, we do reflect on our lives. And once out of the ordinary, someone asks the right question, then you'd be surprised what comes up.
Yeah, I didn't think that would be my answer, to be honest. But I had the courage to dream big. I had the courage to be courageous because I had a really good support network around me. And that started with my mother saying, you've got this, do this, you have my blessing. That was huge. My husband saying, you can do this, and my children. So, we both have children. And when my children support me and they understand what I'm doing, it inspires me to go further. If they say, oh, Mum, I don't know what you're doing that for, why are you bothering? It would feel awkward. But the fact they say, Mum, you've got this, come on, you've got this, Mum, gives me more courage. So having my support network. So I have a very tight network with my family, and I've got some really good friends, amazing friends who guide me, support me, listen to me, pick me up when I'm down. And you need those people who will just pick you up when you've had the 10th interview with somebody and they say, no, we don't want you because you're too Asian or you're too far or you're too this or you're too that. And you come home with a really heavy heart thinking, I can do this. And you need people to pick you up, brush you down and just love you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do need that love and care from the people around you. Absolutely. It's what makes you tick, really.
Makes the world go around,
yes,
Anita.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And to me, somebody asked me once what success, if I'm successful. And I said, I'm not sure. She said, well, you are, Parveen, because you're healthy and you're happy, and that's success in my eyes. And that was my sister-in-law. She died 3 months ago.
Yes, sorry.
And since she's died, I've changed my perspective on life. And I can hear her saying, you've got this. And so now I'm doing things that are quite courageous, traveling the world, cooking by myself. So I feel like a lioness, ever since the lionesses won, actually. I'm being more courageous with my life because life is too short.
Absolutely, for sure.
I thought the most courageous thing I did was leave my job, a paid job, to cook for people. But that wasn't courageous. Courageous was just, yes, I'm Asian. Yes, I cook. Yes, I'm Muslim. Yes, I'm from the North. Because people judge us. They judge us from where we live, our culture, our class, our religion. So I think I am now courageous enough to accept who I am. And I just realized how big that is. It's huge.
I mean, and that's absolutely beautiful because you are. I'm so proud to have you as a part of my family and friends, and you have every reason to be proud of yourself. You've done so many fantastic things.
Thank you. Thank you.
As we'll be sharing in this interview. So what actually took you on your journey and got you started wanting to be a chef? Is that something that you naturally fell into, or was it your experiences?
No, Anita, again, going back to that stereotype of an Asian woman, being an Asian woman and being taught to cook by my mother, it was something I was always pushing against. I didn't accept it at all. I didn't want to be that Asian woman that cooked and got married and had children. I never thought I'd be this person now, dare I say, at 57.
You're not looking
I know. There was no real journey. And I think there was a pivotal moment in my life. And that was, believe it or not, having a tumor, having a life-threatening disease at the age of, I think I was 45 at the time. And not living for other people, not doing what was expected of me, and having a corporate job. And I've always, since I got married, loved cooking because I met this man of my dreams. And it's our wedding anniversary today, 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And I never thought I'd be the woman, never thought I'd be the housewife and mother and cook. But suddenly I found that I wanted to nurture this man. And that's part of there's 5 languages of love, isn't there, Anita? And I think my language of love is service and cooking for people. So when I married him, all I wanted to do was cook lovely meals for him and treat him nice. And that was my way of showing my love for him. And that was the beginning of my journey with being in love with food and cooking food. But I now know, in hindsight, subconsciously being fed those messages from my mother, no pun intended. My mother had these amazing family meals as children, and we all sat down. There wasn't a table enough big for 7 people. Mum and Dad, 9 of us. We sat on the floor, and she would create these amazing dishes. And I think now, in hindsight, I realise that's when I fell in love with good food, at the floor of my mother's house with my brothers and sisters growing up.
That's brilliant. Beautifully put. So what is it that you are so passionate about with your cooking?
Oh, Anita, another good question. So it's my anniversary. So my husband said, shall we go out? And I live in London now, East London, full of Indian restaurants. Masala dosas, you've got street food, you've got fine dining. And, I actually can't think of a place that I really, really want to go. So I think I don't have an arrogance. I have a confidence that when I'm cooking South Asian cuisine and I'm cooking, that I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
The reason I feel I know what I'm doing is because I grew up with this food. So I know my flavors. And the creative side of me is the person that creates new flavors, writes recipes, writes blogs, does food styling. So I think I'm passionate about keeping it real. I know how roti is made. I know how a samosa is made. And it's not because somebody taught me in school. It's not because I learnt it from another TV show on TV. I think I'm so passionate because, hang on a second, this is my culture. This is my cuisine. I know how it's cooked and I know what I'm doing. And it gives me an enormous amount of confidence in what I'm doing, because for the first time in my life, I feel I'm in the right place. And there's no pretense, Anita. There's no pretending to love food. I do, and you know me. I love cooking it. I love styling it. I love shopping for it. I love writing about it. And that's because many, many years I denied what I was. And then when I had the tumor and all my life turned upside down.
Can only imagine how much of a pivotal moment that must have been.
You know what, Anita? It was horrendous. I in my head, I thought, why is this happening to me? Do I deserve to be this ill? Do I deserve these operations? I spent a year in and out of hospital. And at the time, I couldn't understand. And this whole thing, people say, everything happens for a reason. I just felt like saying, I'm going to punch you in the mouth and see if that happens for a reason. Wasn't accepting anything, but I was a very different person. And suddenly I accepted my fate and I relaxed. I thought, you know what? Life isn't a race. It's a journey. And so the tumor taught me just to put down my armor and just be me. And that's what happened. And now I put my hand on my stomach and I thank it for waking me up and allowing me to be. I didn't dare to dream big. I didn't dare to have a cookbook. I didn't dare thinking, I'm a girl from Bradford. Who's going to listen to me? But the tumor taught me life was too short. And then literally after the 4th operation, my husband said, okay, enough, Parveen.
Yes.
Stop stressing. Do what you love. I thought, do what I love. I love throwing dinner parties. So that's what I did.
What a story. Because, yes, absolutely. I mean, I know your story, as we've said, we've spent a lot of time together. But for anybody listening, and, even me right now, I still feel, wow, that's really courageous of you to give everything up for your dream. It is hard. People say, oh, yeah, but you're doing all this. You've been on TV, this. But it's been a journey getting there. It doesn't happen overnight, as we both know.
It's been a really difficult journey. The amount of times I have fallen and got up and really, is this what I really want to do? And you question yourself. Then you get imposter syndrome. Then you think, do I have the right to dream as a South Asian woman? The messages we are fed growing up, you must get married, have children, get a job, earn a living, pay a mortgage. This is life. That's existing, Anita. I was sick of existing. I got married. Yes, he was an amazing guy. I supported him. I raised my children. I did the school run. I did the mosque run. I did everything that a woman was taught to do by her peers and her parents.
Yes.
But now looking back, I don't ever think I was truly happy. until I thought, okay, enough of living for other people. Let me do what I do. And if I love what I do, you're going to love what I do. And that's where, when I do my demonstrations and recipes and I talk to people on camera, they say, oh, you've got such good energy. It's because I love it. And I love it. And I want to share the love of it. And now I'm the happiest I've been because I'm doing what I truly love to do. That's why I'm a curvy size 12. I love food.
You look fabulous. It's funny how we both ended up wearing pink today. That wasn't
pink, I know, yeah.
Wasn't actually, we didn't send each other a text.
Wasn't styled. We weren't styled, yeah.
So tell me more about how you were inspired by your late mother, who herself was a wonderful cook.
You know what, Anita? Mum was a cook, but you only know what was in your immediate environment. So I grew up with this woman, bless my mum's heart. She would complain about everything. The house had to be clean. Our clothes had to be tidy. We had to do our homework. We had to do... You're spoken to. A girl mustn't whistle. You mustn't do this. She was quite a strict mum raising us 2 girls and my 5 brothers. And then suddenly I saw the sexism that the boys didn't get to do much. And we were doing everything. I'm like, no, that's not right. And my mum had said, but you need to learn to cook. I'm thinking, why do I need to learn to cook? Mum can cook. And she did the whole Asian mother thing. That if you can't make round your patties, you're never going to find a husband.
Absolutely.
And I was watching Bend It Like Beckham the other day, and I was so in keeping with how we grew up. And my mum, in her wiseness as a mother, just wanted me to get married because, they worry, they think, that's the norm. But Mum was a really good cook, and she never complained about cooking for 7 children, plus Mum and Dad, 9 people. And I now know she knew her flavours.
Definitely.
She knew what to cook. She travelled with my dad around India and Pakistan as an army wife, so she picked up different sort of cuisines and different techniques and different people. And anything she cooked tasted good. Anything from her desserts to her milkshakes to her chicken curry, her chapatis. And I now know she had a passion for it. And therefore, it wasn't what Mum was cooking, Anita. It's how she was cooking.
Yes.
With lots of intention of love. It was the energy she put in the food. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yes,
people
definitely.
that know me hear me say it all the time. And I think, oh my God, my mum was such an amazing cook. And she never complained about it because, again, it was her passion. Yes. So she must have passed it down to me. I just didn't know it was in me until later on.
Well, I know you've been on the popular TV show Come Dine With Me. Tell me about your experience. Tell me all about it.
Anita, they say every journey begins with the first step. 1,000 miles. Is it 1,000-mile journey begins with one step?
Yes.
My first step was Come Dine With Me. And it was a baptism of fire because it's recorded. It can be very staged. And I tried so hard to be likable and lovable and entertaining and funny. But you know what? In that trying to be somebody for the camera, I wasn't myself. And I think that showed.
Okay.
And I watch it now and I watch it like this. I cringe when I watch it. But it's a popular show.
Yes,
and
definitely.
It gave me my first taste of being in front of the camera. So I'll tell you a funny story. We'd gone to Ghana to visit my husband, flew back into Heathrow, and the guy in Heathrow looked at me, smiled, he said, "Went on holiday?" I said, "Yes." "Welcome back to England." Stamped my passport. He said, "Do I know you?" I said, "No." He said, "Are you from Coventry?" And I said, "No." So my son goes, "Oh, have you seen Come Dine With Me? Mum was on it." He's only about 12. And people all around the world recognize me from Come Dine With Me. I've since been on James Martin, Sunday Brunch, had my own 10-part TV series. My show's gone around the world, but I still get recognized for being on Come Dine With Me. So
it's
I'm also
amazing,
going to embrace that.
What triggers the first appearance? Yes.
But it gave me a taste of cameras and TV and how it worked. And I really enjoyed it. And that was my first taste. And I was a huge fan of the show. And then we all 5 of us became friends after the show. And the best person won. But I was upset that I didn't win. That really was.
Bless. Yes, it's fantastic. I love the show as well.
I love it.
How did it come about that you got your TV show, Parveen's Indian Kitchen, which was aired on ITV? I absolutely loved it. I got it on Serious Link, and so did all of my family.
Thank you, Anita. So I remember, somebody did say to me the other day, let me just answer your question in a moment. Somebody said, what inspires you? But what inspires me is people that watched. So I still get emails and letters and things from people saying, I watched you make a paratha and my mum would cook like you. And they tell me their stories. And when I met people in the real world, I had no idea how it was going to be perceived by the public.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I was told by my very clever producer and very brilliant team that produced the show, excellent team, was just be yourself.
Yes.
Just be yourself with the camera and don't talk to the camera. So, okay, who am I going to talk to then? Said, talk through the camera and talk to the people on the side. So I made a very conscious effort to talk to you. And that took a little while. And the feedback was amazing. But the story of getting my show started 5 years prior to that. And I wanted a TV show. I wrote a cookbook. So I would just call people. I would just ring up and say, hi, my name is Parveen. And I'm going to be a TV chef. And I want you to produce me.
But that's what you got to do. That's what it takes.
I randomly cold call. But here's the thing, Anita. The reason I could cold call is in 1988, after I got married, and the year I got a job at the Observer newspaper.
Oh, wow.
And I was a copywriter, and I used to do selling advertising space. So we had a 2-week course on how to literally cold call and connect with people on the phone. And the first thing they tell you on the phone is smile. Smile.
Yes.
Because the person can hear your energy.
Definitely.
And so, so I learned how to cold call. So I just kept ringing people, Nita, because there's this phrase that says, if you can see it, you can be it. And I could see it before anybody else could see it. And not that I was tenacious, focused.
Absolutely.
I was very focused. And the other thing is, this sounds a bit cliche now, I couldn't really see anybody on TV that was representing women like me.
Definitely.
And the only other TV chef, remember this was about 15 years ago, there was no Instagram or YouTube. Well, YouTube was just coming in. So there was like Madha Jaffrey, we had her. We had a few other female TV chefs, but not many. There's a few of us now. Yeah. So I kept thinking, I want to be that person representing my food. So I would just cold call people all day long. I had a diary of tick, 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 tick. And eventually I did meet a producer, went for dinner, went down to London, cooked a 5-course meal in his office. And he said, okay, Parveen, pitch. So I pitched to him. And he said, no, I don't think it's going to work.
Oh, gosh.
And he asked me to write a TV show, which I wrote a TV show, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. But fast forward 5 years later, when I'd got some investment, I rang him and he eventually became the producer of the show. So you never know who you're going to meet on your journey. And I met him. So now he became my producer 5 years after I actually met him. So,
that's brilliant.
Was very patient, wasn't I? So David then produced the show. And he was producer for James Martin. And so James Martin's very popular on ITV. So we then got the link to ITV, and that's how I got a prime time show, was because David had new people, pitched the show to the right people, and we got the show because of his contacts and his passion and his knowledge. So, I owe a lot to Blue Marlin. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And the thing is, you must be very proud, because I know it's aired in India, Australia, France, Germany, and that's just to name a few of the countries. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic to have a global audience.
You know what, Anita? I've just come back from France, and I was in Normandy, and to watch myself in France was really weird because they've dubbed it. But then I was there doing a charity gig next to Claude Monet's villa, next month I'm off to Israel.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened had I not been seen around the world. So, and I think it's a bit courageous of me. I never thought I'd be doing it traveling. And I am. So I'm very grateful for the platform that the show gave me.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it.
So what would you say to any of the listeners that feel they are okay at cooking but want to improve their kitchen skills? I mean, firstly, they could buy your book. I know that. I highly recommend it because I have used it.
You have used it, and you sent me pictures of it.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people did. Anita sent me pictures. Once they've cooked it, they've sent me pictures. I think so. When people say, I always get, Parveen, what's so good about your cooking? I'll say, well, nothing really. It's just that even my husband watched the show.
Yes.
And he said, you make it look easy. And I said, what do you mean you make it look easy? That's my job. He said, but you do it second nature. So it's not so much I can cook really good food and do good dinner parties. I can teach teach others how to cook. And that's where I think my skill lies, because I'm an ex-nursery nurse, ex-teacher, ex-inspector for Ofsted. So with my life taking on this journey that I took itself, that I was on, I was in jobs that allow me to do this job. Never thinking teaching would be something that I'd be doing at this age, but I'm teaching and cooking at the same time. Plus, I'm quite chatty naturally.
Yes.
So I find it really easy to teach. So I just feel I'm good at that side of it. So I can say, okay, right, Anita, we're going to make some jalebi now. I want you to have, and I know exactly what you need. And for some reason, I have a sixth sense when it comes to what flavors work together.
Excellent.
Again, comes naturally. I don't have to think too hard when I'm doing new recipes. And I find it incredibly easy to do what I do. And the hardest part of the job probably would be social media, keeping up with it, and having my picture taken. I'm not a fan of having my picture taken, Anita. And you must think, oh my God, I've seen you, Parveen. You've got pictures everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I love talking. Hardest part of the job is smiling after an event and having pictures taken with, 25 people want a picture of you. And the other part of the job that I find difficult to accept is when people meet me and they can't speak to me.
Okay. Yes.
They get tongue-tied or they're shy. And as you know, Anita, I'm a very open person.
Yes, definitely.
So, when I was in France, there's a couple of people and they just couldn't speak to me, and I found that strange. But then I would be like that if I met somebody I'd seen on TV.
Yes. So what words of wisdom would you give anyone that wants to start a career as a chef?
Yeah, gosh, I would say, I don't know about words of wisdom. I have words that would bode well. So you have to have lots of patience, lots of persistence, and lots of perseverance. It's tough because now if you Google chicken masala, onion bhajis on YouTube, you're inundated with people doing the job. And Instagram, I think it's brilliant because it's helped normal people have a platform to do what they love. So the first thing I had to do was find a brand that was mine, which was as my name, Parveen The Spice Queen, and then learn to do your own food photography and do as many courses as you can to help you. So it's a lot of hard work, Anita. It doesn't happen naturally. I had taken acting lessons. I had taken voice coaching. I had styling lessons. I had to pay to learn to do my own makeup because, you can do your own makeup on camera. You need to have a certain level of makeup.
Absolutely.
So I put a lot of energy and time into being the person I am. And to the outside looking in, you might say, oh yeah, she just cooks and she's on YouTube and she has a show and she cooks. And there's an awful lot of background work that goes behind that.
Yeah, behind the scenes, definitely.
So learn your profession, learn your trade, and put yourself in the environment you want to be in. I then put myself in a school, in a college, and I taught Indian cooking in a college for years. And I was teaching in an industrial kitchen. And by using my big teacher voice, I'd say, and I would do that in the kitchen because I'm an ex-teacher. So I put myself in that environment, Anita. I didn't think one day, I wake up, I'm going to get a TV show and a book.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a step-by-step journey to get here. So find a job that you love, do your courses, learn to take photographs, know what your brand is. And if you're writing a book or you're writing recipes, just start writing. Just start writing.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. So I know you famously made James Martin an onion bhaji butty on his show. So
I did.
What's the secret to the perfect onion bhaji butty?
Oh, there's lots of little elements that I have to get right. I did a demonstration recently in the Manchester Mela.
Okay.
And my audience was South Asian, and I made them onion bhaji butties. So when I make my onion bhajis, I mean, there is so many recipes out there, Anita. You can put literally so many varieties. But remember, I teach cooking.
Yes.
So what I like to do is make it as simple as possible. Sometimes less is more. Not like my top today. We've seen how sparkly this is. Sometimes less is more. So 3-4 key things with the bhaji mix is slice your onions and potatoes very thinly. Add lemon juice to crispify, slightly crispify the gram flour. Don't need any baking powder. That puffs them up and the oil seeps in. Learn how to fry correctly. If you learn how to fry correctly, you don't get a greasy bhaji. And I have been to some really good restaurants. I'm not going to mention any names, I've got there and had it onion bhaji, and I can feel the oil because they're not being fried correctly. There's a technique to frying. So you fry on high, let it seal, turn it down, let it cook in the middle. And then when you take the bhaji out, take it out while the oil is hot, not while the oil is cool. And then you have the oil doesn't go into the bhaji, it sort of surrounds it. So the frying part is really important, and people don't know how to fry correctly.
I mean,
and the other mistake, are you going to agree? Are you going to agree?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to agree, because until I read your recipe, unfortunately, being the youngest, I've never really had to cook in my entire life, and I've always been cooked for. And then when I got your book, I've started doing the recipes, and I'm telling you, my onion bhajis are amazing because I follow it.
Do you know, Anita, you make them quite often.
Yeah,
I see pictures of them. Are they good?
Absolutely. I follow it to the T, and it's very important because I did learn that fact from you about once you got the oil hot, then turn it down, and then you turn it back up. And I absolutely do everything you're saying. They come out amazing. So thank you.
And it's only a few key. Thank you. It's only a few key things. And the oil, the lemon juice, the acidity. And I mean, I'm not a scientist, a food scientist, but my son is a food scientist actually. And he says there's the acidity in the lemon juice. Frying them correctly is a key part of it.
Definitely.
Slicing your onions and potatoes correctly is another key part of it. And there's so many key elements. And the spices, so the biggest mistake people make, the biggest, is adding too much spice. People wrongly assume, the more spice they add, the better it will taste. So I know people that would add, if you guys are watching this and make onion bhajis and you add all these flavors, good on you, fine. But I'm just telling you, basically, you just need some salt, chili powder, something a bit acidic, and some coriander or fenugreek. And people add ginger and the garlic and tomatoes and all sorts. And you can. But if you're teaching somebody how to make a recipe and the ingredient list is long, from the moment they see the list, they're put off. So with all my recipes, I do the bare minimum that you need to make a curry. All the recipes are simple. Interesting, because I've just done a second book and just finished it, and there's some complicated recipes in there. So the key thing is just follow that recipe to a T and it will work. Too much spice kills the flavor, doesn't add flavor. Then once you have your perfect onion bhaji, key thing is, now I don't eat white bread, Anita, but I do when I have my bhaji butty. So white bread, butter, and then you put the hot bhajis in and it melts the butter. And then of course, ketchup, please don't judge me. So the way I see it, it's like having a spicy chip butty. I love them. You know, when I'm making onion bhajis, if I was going to make them tonight, first thing my son will say is, Mum, have we got any bread?
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. I prefer just the onion bhaji, especially being gluten-free. And
oh yes, at least you're gluten-free. And that's the best thing about them. They are gluten-free, and I use the flour for a lot of other things as well.
You've heard it first here, the perfect onion bhaji. I love your cookbook, like I said, and I love the stories behind the recipes. Tell me more about them, and how did that come about?
Gosh, so the stories are really important to me, Anita. And again, when I was writing the book, I did a lot of research, and somebody said, just keep it real. My son was a teenager; he kept saying, "Mom, keep it real." I said, "What do you mean, like rapping? Keep it real?" But if you tell a real story, and you ask a question, you don't have to remember anything because it's all in here. The stories in the cookbook are true, but remember, it took me 5 years to write that. 5 years of thinking, I'm writing a book, will anybody ever read this? And it was quite frightening actually at the time, spending all that time and energy writing something that I wasn't sure if it was going to get published. It took a long time to get published. The second book's been easier because I'm almost knowing that somebody's going to read it at some point, because people that bought the first might write the second book. But the stories, every time I sat down to write a story, a recipe, a story would just pop into my head. And interesting, I didn't even think about the story for each recipe. It was almost like, and I don't know if it was channeling. Okay. I would sit down at the typewriter and say, okay, I'm going to write my recipe for parathas. And I would write of the first memory that popped into my head with the parathas. And that is having a stack of them with hot, spicy chai in a thermos on the trip to Blackpool.
And good.
And that's what I remember as a child. So the stories were all real, but I was so blessed because every time I thought of a recipe, a story would pop into my head. And Anita, I didn't have to think that hard. It was just all there. It was all there in my memory bank because the first book was dedicated to my mum and my dad and my family. So the stories were just in me. They were in me.
Because they're so authentic. Absolutely.
Yeah, even now, second book, I wrote a story, and my daughter said, Mum, did you really put that in the cookbook? I went, yeah, because she's a flexitarian, flexible vegetarian. Recently, she came home and I made paneer. She went, oh, Mum, can't have that because now I'm vegan. What's a vegan?
What is one?
A flexible vegan. A flexible vegan. So I wrote it in the cookbook. And so my family go around saying, don't say anything because you'll write it in the book.
Yeah, so, I've heard that.
And if you write... Yeah, and if you write about what you know, so if you're listening to this and think, I want to write a cookbook, I have a book in me and a story in me, just start writing it. But my family didn't say anything because sometimes it does go in a blog or it does go in a book or it goes on a video.
Definitely. So my $1 million question, what is your favourite go-to 3-course meal?
No, I know, Anita, you can't ask me that. It's asking like who my favourite child is. Depends what mood I'm in.
Fair enough.
It's a stodgy mood. It's a comfort eating mood. It's got to be an onion bhaji sandwich. You know what? I feel like making them tonight. Comfort food is onion bhaji sandwich, crispy bhajis, white bread, cup of tea. Lovely. If I'm in a meaty mood, it's my lamb shish kebabs. I love them with cumin wedges and a coleslaw with turmeric, which I make myself.
Fantastic.
And if I'm in a sweet mood, probably something with mango.
Yes, I know you like mango.
I love mango. Eating anything with mango goes well. So it depends what mood I'm in as to what I'm going to cook. So that's my 3-course meal. But the other thing I have to say, which somebody pointed out to me, is when I cook, I don't tend to cook food I love. I tend to cook food my husband and my children love, my friends love. That's something that I didn't realise I didn't cook for myself. I cook for others, if that makes sense.
Yes, I totally get that when you were here cooking for me.
Which I didn't know that, Anita. I didn't until somebody pointed it out to me.
So what would you say to anyone listening that cannot cook and likes the idea of learning how to cook?
I find it fascinating if people say they can't cook, because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert them. It's really bad. It's like a red rag to a bull. Oh, I don't like spice, so I can't cook. I'm like, really? And I get in there really quickly trying to convince them to cook. First thing I'll say is just do something really, really simple, really easy. I find it really difficult to understand people that say I can't cook, because it's beyond my comprehension. So if somebody came to me and said, Parveen, I can't cook, well, I have my own range of spices, don't I? So I normally give them a spice bag and a recipe and say, just look on YouTube and follow me. I always say that, just go on YouTube, click and follow me cook. Because people like a recipe, they love a recipe, but people like watching more. So if somebody says I can't cook, I sometimes say, go to my YouTube channel, watch me make the dal or chicken masala. So that's normally my answer. And I always, if somebody says I can't cook, I just want to convert them to cooking. It's really bad, isn't it?
It's your passion. It's within you to do that. Absolutely. That's brilliant.
I'm not a fanatic when it comes to cooking food, but I am very difficult to please when we go out for dinner.
I can imagine.
I'm finding the older I'm getting, the more fussy. Yeah, but so the other thing is, if I'm going to yours and you have nothing cooked, I will be really happy with the cheese and tomato sandwich and a cup of tea and a bag of crisps. So I'm not a food snob per se. But if you're going to cook South Asian cuisine, then cook it properly.
I think I'll just leave that for you. Any cooking that happens in my house when you're here, you will be doing, I can assure you.
But Anita, I have seen your cooking and you're doing really well with your food.
I've been following your recipes.
No, but I always thought you were a really good cook. I didn't know you couldn't.
I mean, I've learned over the years. But yeah, I'm the type that likes to follow a recipe, unfortunately. Give me a recipe, I can cook anything, I'll be honest.
That's interesting you say that, because I write recipes. Here's the thing, I don't really follow them. I don't know how that works. There must be something in me that can write them but doesn't follow them. I don't know.
Gosh. So where can the listeners find your book online? What's your website? So
my website is Parveen The Spice Queen. And actually that I only rebranded to that about 5 years ago. And it's lovely because I feel very much like Parveen The Spice Queen. People can follow me on Instagram, Parveen The Spice Queen, and I always answer any of my messages. My YouTube channel, Parveen The Spice Queen, and my website. So just type in you can Google me, and I have a Wikipedia page as well now, which is nice. People can find me. Please engage with me. I normally quite polite. I answer, sit down and answer messages. And if I can inspire you to cook, and you think, oh, I don't know if I can make a dal or a peshwari naan or a biryani with my recipes, you can. I do it step by step by step. And the reason I wrote the step by step recipes, was because I wrote them for my son, who was 18 at the time. So that's why I think they're easy to follow.
And I'll put all your links in the show notes so people can connect directly with you. Thank you for sharing your courageous, insightful journey with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many others. Parveen Ashraf, aka The Spice Queen. My final question to you is, what is your definition of courage? Because we are all about Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast. So what is your definition of courage?
So my definition of courage is putting yourself out there. It's just, putting yourself out there. Having the courage to be different. I think that's a multifaceted answer I'm going to give you. Having the courage to be different. Having the courage to dream. Having the courage to follow your dreams. And having the courage to follow through. All of that needs courage. All of it.